Tristan Law Show. If it's your first time here, welcome. And if you've been here before, welcome back. I'm Tristan Law, semi-retired wrestler, and your host. But today, I am not alone. I am joined by good friend, fellow broadcaster, and let's just say, formidable opponent when it comes to playing Uno. We're waiting for his face to jump in. There he goes. His name is Cheyenne Ortiz. He is the voice. What's going on, man? I haven't talked to you in such a long time. What's going on?
What's going on, guys? Good morning. We're talking all things Survivor Series here on the Tristan Law Show, one of the few podcasts of my friends that I listen to, and I'm honored to be on here.
Well, you know what, Cheyenne, I'm honored to have you on here as well too. You know, I watch what you're doing on YouTube. You're doing a great job interviewing people and, you know, getting the voice out, and I'm doing a job as well for me. So I like it that we are both in the same exact field, but you give it more from like a fan perspective because you've never really been in the ring, and I give it more from like a wrestler perspective because I think I've spent the majority of my time in the ring. But either way, today we're talking about WWE WarGames 2024 in Vancouver, British Columbia, Canada. We're gonna talk about all of the things that happened. We're gonna recap it. We're gonna analyze it. And like, golly, wasn't that such a great event, Cheyenne? What do you think about WarGames altogether?
I think it was a solid event, another record breaker for the WWE, which was heavily touched on throughout the broadcast and, of course, in the post-show recap press conference. You know, WWE's firing on all cylinders. It's public knowledge. It's no secret. I know people are shocked with some of the booking decisions of last night, which we'll touch into, but I think overall the storytelling continues with Survivor Series.
I agree 100%. I think the stories are top notch. The stories are just as great as any television show that you would watch. To kick this whole thing off, I definitely want to talk about the women's WarGames match. For me, you know, what were some of your standout moments in the women's WarGames match?
You know, I might be the odd man out, but I was very centered. I was very centered around because I knew it was going to be a spot, not a actual moment, and it's exactly what it was. I watched it with friends. We did a Friendsgiving, and the only part of the women's WarGames match that I was centered on was how is Tiffany Stratton going to tease the cash in? That was my main concern because we saw with Damian Priest, obviously, and now with Tiffany Stratton, part of their story is not when they cashed in, but how. And to be able to tease it as much as Damian did, and for that to be Tiffany Stratton's thing, to have so many, you know, thoughts and faux pas about cashing in, that's what I want to see if it would happen in the WarGames match. And we did have that brief moment prior to the fire extinguisher spot. So that was my main thing. I think also the dedication or brutality from the women was second to none. I'm not saying that women have held back in the WarGames, but this was raising that bar instead of keeping it at a stalemate. So some of the table spots, obviously the EO trash can spot, plus the moonsault with Stratton, you know, it was all high octane athleticism, the avalanche riptide. It was a solid women's WarGames match. A little clunky at times, but that wasn't the takeaway. The match was.
I agree, and the clunkiness for me was in the beginning with Nia Jax. I just felt like at times, just like for anybody that's a wrestler or things like that, you kind of find the heel is the one that kind of leads the part of the match, but that's like the beginning of the match where it's the shine, and it's just like I felt like Nia Jax was kind of lost in the beginning of the match. Like, I don't know, maybe she was blowing up, maybe she was injured or working through something. I don't know, but I just felt like that first part of the match between Bayley and Nia Jax, I didn't feel that it went good as well too. One of the things that creeped me out in the beginning, bro, was the mask of Rhea Ripley. Dude, that was so creepy. Like, I'm sitting here looking at it, and I'm getting goosebumps and chills the whole entire time. I'm like, that's such a ugly thing. Like, why would anybody want to wear that on their face? Did you get any kind of reaction from the mask?
I thought it was different. Obviously, it gave me Krampus vibes. I assume that's what the aesthetic was, Krampus theme. That's what I assimilated it to. I didn't like or dislike it. I was indifferent about it. I was like, oh, okay, that's cool. If that makes any sense. I try not to, my wrestling analyticism is very different. So that wasn't that match was so stupid.
Right.
I don't live and die by that. it was nice to see her perform at full throttle. I'll tell you that. To go back to your point, because WarGames is ultimately from our childhood, even if this is the modern version of it, when you're in that Arn Anderson position to start it off, it's crucial. You're setting the match, you're setting the tone of the match. That doesn't mean you have to start with brutality, but you are. And I think there was some mishaps there with Nia and Bayley. Was that Nia's first or second appearance in WarGames? She's not seasoned.
No. But looking at that part as well too, it felt like the chemistry was off between the both of the women. Like, it made it look like they've never been in the ring together before, and I know that's not true.
Well, that's strange because they just worked a PLE together. They're on the horn together in house shows. So I see that point as well. But I think they got through the 5-minute period fairly well.
Yes.
And obviously, once the advantage began, the match progressed. I'm just glad that that's not the biggest takeaway of the match, because we've had it sometimes where, mishaps and things are like standing out over the high spots, and we wouldn't want that. I mean, we're going to get into the men's WarGames, and I'm sure we're going to talk rumors of when everybody's screen blacked out, and that obviously didn't overshadow the match. So how did you? I had a feeling about Bayley being the first one to start, and I think I have a reason of why Bayley was the first one to start. I want to look at you, and I want to see, Cheyenne, what's your point of view on why Bayley was the first one that had to start on that team? What do you think? Well, for me, I think because Bayley was the one that, joined the team last and had to have the trust issue, not too dissimilar to Punk, but I think because of the fact of earning the faith of her teammates is why ultimately she was the person to start. I think it was to get her footing in her team's faith is why she was chosen. And look, if you're going to look at it from an analytical standpoint and try to pick your first pick, why wouldn't you start with Nia Jax, the biggest person, the strongest person on the team, a champion? So to me, both picks made sense to kick things off.
Well, if I was Bayley, what I would have done was that I would have done the same exact thing, because I don't want to be locked in a cage with people that barely even like me. So I felt that was the best reason for her to go inside the ring. But talking about things that people don't even like, I think that this was probably one of the first matches where Nia Jax's anxiety didn't play into itself, and Nia Jax was very anxious when it comes to Tiffany Stratton being the woman's Money in the Bank, and that's why I think that Nia Jax holds her so near and dear to her heart, just to keep her finger on her. Who do you think that Tiffany Stratton was going to cash in on when in that match?
Oh, I don't think there's any doubt. I think she's eyeballing Nia. I definitely think some of the mental notes have got into Tiffy Time's head about some of the things Nia Jax has said, despite being best friends with her. I definitely think she was eyeballing Nia Jax. It's certainly an opportunity, right, when you have both champions in front of you, but I definitely think she would have cashed in at Nia Jax for sure.
I agree 100%. I think Nia is probably is the weakest out of the two. She doesn't really have much backup, as compared to Liv Morgan. True. So, like, if I was going for somebody, go for the lowest hanging fruit. That's Tiffany Stratton. But I'm here with Cheyenne Ortiz, good friend. He's the voice, fellow broadcaster, podcaster. And we're breaking down WWE WarGames 2024. Last night, it was such a great, amazing event. And if we were paying for it, I think it was well worth the money. The next match we want to take a look at is the Intercontinental Championship match. Sheamus, Bron Breakker versus Ludvig Kaiser. What were your thoughts on that match?
I certainly had expectations going into it because I'm huge fans of all three. Obviously, Sheamus, a generational talent. He's from not necessarily my era when I started wrestling, but that's somebody. There is an affinity with wrestlers when we see their whole career, and Sheamus is one of them. And so getting to see Sheamus in the ring in a title opportunity is great. Bron Breakker is the hybrid wrestler. He's a super athlete. And Ludvig Kaiser is really coming into his own. Ludvig Kaiser has really been performing at a level that nobody expected. I don't mean that as a knock at him. I mean that as a knock at fans. I don't think people really wanted to realize how talented Ludvig Kaiser is. He's a physical specimen. He is a wonder on the mic, and he gets it done in the ring. And he's a good-ass heel. So to have those dynamics in a three-way, I was excited. And I think the match delivered from athleticism to storytelling to the finish. It was stellar.
For me, I think that I'm a big fan of Ludvig Kaiser. Big fan.
Yeah.
And there's these times where I just get these goosebumps where I feel like all the hairs on my body, like my beard is like standing out to the side. And it's like when I feel like it's something really special. And I feel that Ludvig Kaiser is very special from the way that he comes to the ring, from when he was with Imperium. I would just always look and I'd be like, that guy's special. There's something different about him. Like, he's the guy that wants to break out from behind Gunther's like shadow, but it's like, it's just not his time yet. He's just like, as The Rock would say, he's knowing his role and he's shutting his mouth. And that's what he's doing. So I was really going for Ludvig Kaiser. I wanted Ludvig Kaiser to win that match. Sheamus at this point, you know what? It's because Ludvig Kaiser was in the match. I'm like, you know what? I don't care if he wins. I'm not really emotionally invested in Bron Breakker. I want Ludvig Kaiser to win.
I think the other part you just nailed on it is it's not his time yet. And I think sometimes with wrestling fans, when we like somebody so much and believe in them, we want their time to be immediate, and we don't want to accept the fact that timing, there's other factors that have to come into play for it to be somebody's time. So I just want to back that up.
Yeah, I definitely appreciate that. That's why we are a tag team today. Tag team in life, tag team on the podcast scene. Talking about timing. A lot of people waited. We waited so long for somebody like LA Knight to come up. Like, there were so many up and downs when it came to LA Knight trying to, get his first championship gold, trying to get that belt around his waist. And he finally got it in the form of the U.S. Championship, and he lost it last night to Shinsuke Nakamura. Was that something that you expected?
I did not expect it, but I certainly knew that Shinsuke had a chance going into it. And people are like, well, what do you mean he's been a throwaway heel? But he's been a great adversary when utilized. I think the fact that Shinsuke went in, debuted the new look, got a nice momentum win on SmackDown, and really in a 2-week span got a lot of traction against LA Knight, or a 3-week span maybe, was a huge difference maker also. I know Booker T made some comments on his podcast, if you didn't catch it, about how the light was dimmering on LA Knight's momentum. I know a lot of people agreed and disagreed on that. Well, this is the test, right? Because everybody who's a wrestling purist believes in the chase, and LA Knight's going to chase something from here on in. I thought the match was good. I thought it was a match, if that makes sense. I'm not going to sit here and tell you it was a classic.
Right. Just a match to tell a story.
Right. And then the story was, typical heel stuff, rake the eyes to get out of a situation. He neutralized the spine. He hit him on that second time with that reverse DDT, and that was the weakening point to hit the Kinshasa, and we've got the new United States champion. I think that's Shinsuke's third one. And I really want to see where LA Knight's going to go next, because it's only upward, right?
Right.
In theory.
Hopefully.
And then I want to see where Shinsuke is going to go, because it's a nice rub on him. I think overall it was a solid match. It helped facilitate a card, but I think I'm very curious about the LA Knight story right now.
So for me, Cheyenne, one of the things that one of the notes that I put was I hope that LA Knight goes at it again with Shinsuke Nakamura, because I do agree that LA Knight, the fans aren't as loud as they were when he was on his rise. And it's the same exact thing that I think with Cody. I don't think Cody's as hot as he was. Like, look, Cody Rhodes, the Universal Undisputed WWE World Heavyweight Champion from Mars, he wasn't on the event. To me, that's like bonkers. Why is he not on the event? Right? And it's just like, he's not as hot anymore. And I don't feel that LA Knight is as hot. When the fans come out, everybody's not going, yeah, or chanting LA Knight, but I feel that Shinsuke Nakamura is the perfect person to rip his head off and poop down his throat and give him a little bit of a challenge. I think that LA Knight underestimated Shinsuke Nakamura, and I'm looking forward definitely to the story to where both of those men can go.
I see your point. I do see your point. I definitely think that Shinsuke Nakamura is a great test for LA Knight. I think also it has to do with booking. I don't want to get too inside baseball, but we might have our first Skip and Stephen A moment here. I think with Cody it's more of a booking thing because it's hard when you reach such a zenith, right? With Cody of the finishing the story, the 2-year saga, and then you get there, you have finished the story. I'm not trying to disrespect anybody.
Okay.
I'm not trying to, because I'll put it out there. I'd like a job, but on paper, okay,
hire my friend.
Right. And if you're going back to even the Roman Reigns thing, when you're a champion of a certain level, the believability of that person is going to lose is very hard. So I think with the fact that Cody's the guy, he's going to be the guy with the rocket for quite a while now, you're like, is Kevin Owens really going to beat him? I think it's kind of the opponents, not to discredit anybody, but to give you an example, nobody thought Randy Orton was going to beat Gunther.
True.
Right?
True.
They just gave you a classic,
True.
and we went through many opponents that came close, but you knew they weren't going to beat Roman Reigns.
Right. But
so I think it's those growing pains of booking that we're going through with Cody. Do I think the money is when he's going to turn heel and have his tribal chief run? Yes. But he's still fresh in WWE to an extent, so we've got to get him established as a babyface.
I agree 100%.
As a character, rather, as an individual.
We're talking about Cody Rhodes, right?
Yes.
I agree.
Yes.
I agree 100%. I feel that, and I've made an episode about this. If it's your first time here, go ahead and hit subscribe. But I made an episode about Cody Rhodes and talked about, like, is he really a heel? Like, I don't think Cody Rhodes is really a babyface. I think he's running around.
I think he's a heel for sure.
I think he's a heel. I think he's a heel because he's pretty.
Think he is. I definitely think he's a babyface because, unlike, I think for the first time since Cena, and unlike when Roman was a face for a long time, there's like a purity about Cody. There's that, truth, justice, and honor type of thing with Cody, that he stands on his morals and they're very transparent.
Right. Like Lisa Simpson.
Different from when we went through it with Roman and Seth and even John Moxley.
Right.
I think there's a huge transparency of purity with Cody that we haven't experienced in a while. And here's the other thing about the WWE right now that I mentioned to my nephew, who's also a fan. I don't know what they're going to call it. I like to call it the Renaissance era. The WWE is in a position where there's these megastars, right? Roman, Cody, and then there's stars. It's very top heavy. And I don't mean that in a bad way, but it is what it is, right? Because you have Roman and Cody. Those are your, the pantheon, the upper echelon, if you will. And then with Seth Rollins, for that matter. And then you've got Punk on top of that. You've got the Usos coming into their own, because now we're going to see way more out of Jimmy, right? You've got Gunther. You've got Damian Priest, LA Knight. Solo, Tama Tonga, Tonga Loa, Jacob Fatu. I can go on and on, right? Before, you were lucky if you got 5 names out during certain eras of wrestling.
True. It was always like 4.
We're talking about how WWE's making so much money because so many people are making money for them. And I think if you're a true student of the game, there was a time where John Cena accounted for more than 50% of the WWE's revenue. That's between merchandise, ratings, live events. John Cena as an individual accounted for more than 50% of the WWE's revenue. Now, you're hearing it all the time, whether it's true or not. Jey Uso's the #1 merchandise seller right now. LA Knight's the #1 merchandise seller right now. Cody's the #1. You're not just hearing Cody, Roman. It's this, medley of great talent that are helping the company hit those new heights.
Okay, Cheyenne. So let me ask you this then. I know we're here talking about, Survivor Series 2024, and I just like how this is probably one of my most favorite episodes that I'm doing this season right now, because I didn't really have a real rundown. I just left it as a skeleton to go wherever we go. So let me ask you this question. Who do you think, in your opinion, is WWE's next biggest star? Give me yours and I'll give you mine.
I honestly think the next big baby face, and I know some people are going to say, oh, well, he already is. And I'm like, we're just scratching the surface on that. The next big baby face is Jey. I think Jey has already gone through that acceptance period. I think he needs to go through now the period where it's transcending, where Everybody knows now or has an idea who Roman Reigns is, whether you watch wrestling or not. Everybody knows or has an idea who Cody Rhodes is, whether you watch wrestling or not. He's on to the Tonight Show, other television outlets. I think Jay is the next babyface to hit that global status. From the bad guy perspective, I mean, I tell you, when Solo gets more comfortable being Solo, I think we'll be in that conversation as a heel, again, to be on a global status, to be, more universal in other outlets outside of wrestling. I think those are the two. I mean, there's an argument to be made that you got to let Jimmy have his run because Jimmy's very charismatic too. Yeah, I mean, those are my picks. I mean, there's a couple of others, but I think those are the ones you'll see sooner than later.
So for me, I'm going to definitely put Ludvig Kaiser in there. I definitely see him turning into a big baby face. And the reason why I see him turning into a big baby face is because he has these facial expressions on him. If you look at WarGames from last night, and that second where he tries to put the chair in the corner, and then he turns around and both his opponents are standing by him, the look in his face. And one of the things for me when I was wrestling full time in the ring, I modeled myself after three people: Edge, Randy Orton, and Triple H. And Randy Orton more or less because he always had these facial expressions. And that's the way that he sold the story. And I think that Ludvig Kaiser being a babyface is going to sell the story just like that. The second person that I think is going to be up there as well too is Tiffany Stratton. The reason why I say Tiffany Stratton is because Tiffany Stratton is beautiful, and I'm not saying this in a way to be like creepy or anything like that, but I still think that sex sells. People love to talk to attractive people. And Cheyenne, that's why people are watching us today. They want to see two attractive men talk about pro wrestling, and I think that Tiffany Stratton, she's going to be a big baby face. Her walking around with that Money in the Bank briefcase, it's only a matter of time before she cashes it in. I think she's articulate enough and she cares about pro wrestling enough that she can be on television and talk about pro wrestling passionately and professionally, because that's the most important part, because WWE is a corporate entity.
I agree, and I think Tiffany Stratton is the closest this era's had to a Trish Stratus that we've had in a long time. And I think the same way at Jada Parker, actually. I think Jada Parker's also in that same conversation of, that transcendent beauty, if and when her time comes. But yeah, I see your point for those names, especially Tiffany Stratton. I think Ludwig Kaiser is going to be the next big bad guy, but I am curious to see what his babyface performance is like. Sure.
I could agree that he's going to be the next big bad guy, because after that match with Gunther last night, with Gunther and Damian Priest, look, Gunther's halfway to being a big baby face, because half the crowd was cheering for Gunther, and the other half was cheering for Damian Priest. We like Gunther, and I don't know what it is that we like about Gunther. Is it that Gunther always comes in and delivers, the best matches? Is it that Gunther is the 666 days as the Intercontinental Champion? I don't know. But let me go to the chat real quick. We're talking about Solo Sikoa, and Kevin Abreu says that Solo is a jobber. How do you feel about that?
I certainly disagree with that point. I definitely don't think he's a jobber by any means, because guess what? You've been watching him for 2 years now, and for one whole year, he's been running SmackDown, and he's been facilitating the best story of the last 10 years. So I certainly disagree that he's a jobber.
I don't think he's in his own yet, though. Solo does not bring my milkshake to the yard. And I do want to thank Summer Lovechild. What's up, boo? She said she's here for the beautiful men. So thanks for being here for us. You know what, Cheyenne? I like this so much. I'm going to invite you back more often. We're going to do this more often. I know that we work a crazy schedule. We both live in the same town. We just have to get together someday, and we just gotta get going into it. Let's take a look at the main event. The main event was the OG Bloodline with CM Punk, with the new Bloodline with Bronson Reed. But looking at that match, though, I don't feel it was a with Bronson Reed. I feel like Bronson Reed is a part of the new Bloodline. Thoughts, comments, go.
It's funny you say that, because we were watching it, and I agree. I don't think there was I'm going to do this as a favor, as a this, as that. I certainly saw Bronson Reed as a full-blown member of the Red Bloodline, if you will. And what a performance overall from start to finish. He came in number one at the advantage because we kicked things off with Tama Tonga, who did the Super Mario and went around the whole cage.
Yeah, crazy.
And then we had Jey Uso with maybe Pop of the Night. But yeah, I think Bronson Reed, we're going to find out, if he's on Raw or not tomorrow. But I think Bronson Reed certainly was acknowledging Solo and the Bloodline. So
one of the notes that I took as well too, Cheyenne, is that I felt that the new Bloodline, they came out as a team. They came out as a team. Sure. They played together as a team. They came out to one theme. The OG Bloodline with CM Punk, they came out to 5 separate themes. And one of the things I don't think that sat well with Roman Reigns is he didn't come out last.
That was also a topic of discussion last night. There's a lot of dynamics in the entrances. I think number one is the storytelling. Why would they have all come out together when they just, stopped giving some flack and grief to Sami Zayn? Why would they have all come out together when they just accepted Paul Heyman's favor out of CM Punk?
Right.
And to top it off, why would you have done the group entrance for Jay to start? And there's still some growing pains with Jimmy, Jay, and Roman.
See, I'm loving this dynamic right now because you're the fan and you're talking about it from like a inside wrestling as legit. And I'm talking, well, I'm looking at it purely as a fan.
As an announcer, as an announcer who's somebody who's very dedicated to wrestling.
You are.
As somebody trained by a promoter, my lens is very booking oriented. And so I understood why they did what they did to facilitate the story, because it's not like I'm giving you just some Monday morning quarterback fan perspective.
That's what I'm giving.
Or some, like, I'm giving it to you from kind of an inside baseball, behind the curtain type of thing, because I've got that booking mind as an announcer, as a promoter. So that's how I was looking at it. The entrances facilitated the story. And again, you want to sell the fact that the Red Bloodline is a unit, is a team, whereas Roman's team was not unified to any degree, I think, until the end of the match.
I don't think they were unified until Paul Heyman came out there and said, "Bro, guys, you need to get it together." Because until then, I was like, they're not going to win this. They're not going to win this at all. They came into the ring and they had the OG Bloodline was having 5 separate matches,
right?
Instead of having one match. And
right.
I agree too with the whole, they weren't together. They weren't together a month ago. A month ago they were all, at each other's throats, and even so much so as much as Friday. However, one of the things that I'm looking at is that, it's still a team. It's about the unification. Even though you don't it's like a husband and wife. Even though you may be having issues in your house, you should still come out as a team and as a unified front. And I didn't see that in the beginning. A lot of people didn't see that in the beginning, and that's when I really thought that they were not going to win.
Yeah, I knew the victory could have gone either way. I knew that the story could have been that because they didn't come together as a unit, they could have suffered a loss in the match. But I also knew, kind of like the Avengers, that they had to come together in the end to pull it off, right? We saw the teases of, when Roman cut Punk off to come out of the cage, like, you ain't going yet. But then Punk, saved Roman off the table, and that's when they did the Avengers pull. So again, storytelling, man, there was a lot of breadcrumbs in there to get you a loaf.
What's funny? I'm going to admit, I had to give it a hand clap for that. I've never really
slow clap.
That's true. I've never really seen the Avengers. I've never really gotten it. Yeah, don't judge me. I haven't really gotten into all the movies.
No, I was surprised because, that's all. I don't hear that often.
But when you put it like that, and it's like that's where the master storytelling comes from the WWE.
Right.
And I was explaining to somebody this morning that there's nothing like new in TV. And like I know in wrestling, everything that is new is old. It's something that everybody did. You just sprinkle a different bit of seasoning in it. You know what? Instead of using salt and pepper, maybe this time you use a little bit of sazon. Just to make it taste a little bit different. But I never looked at it like that. That they all came in together as separate. And just like the Avengers, in order for them to win, they had to do it together in the end. Wow.
I think that's the best way to look at it. And I think because wrestling fans have such terrible attention spans these days, they're not used to consistent storytelling, which is what WWE is doing on a regular basis now in this new era. You know, they just want these match cards put out, and then they want to draw their own criticism. Everybody wants to know the ending of the story and then the credits. Nobody wants to sit through the story. And last night we sat through the story and it paid off, I think.
So do you think the story's over when it comes to the whole Bloodline?
No. Oh, we're you know, to coin a phrase, I don't know what inning we're in.
Right.
But I definitely think the next chapter is exciting.
So here's my ultimate question that I'm going to ask you. What do you think this favor is that CM Punk is going to ask Paul Heyman? The floor is yours.
To coin a phrase from you, it's low hanging fruit, but I'm going to go with a potential title shot win, and if Roman Reigns becomes champion again.
I see it 100% against Roman Reigns, and it's going to put Paul Heyman in a spot. It's going to put him in a spot. And you know the best part about this is that they're not going to pay it off now. They're not going to pay it off next month. They're not going to pay it off. That might be something that they pay off, like
right
going into like the Elimination Chamber or something like that, or going into WrestleMania.
I mean, you also got to keep in mind that I think it's something we'll see next year, and here's why. We're going to see the Netflix transition. We're going to see where Roman ends up. We're going to see where Punk ends up. We're going to see where our champions end up. We need to get through the Rumble. We need to get through WrestleMania. I certainly think it's something next year. And then look, you know, it's the first time Roman at this level of superstar takes on CM Punk at this level of superstar. And I don't want to sit here and tell you that SummerSlam's in a stadium for 2 days, but, you know, whatever.
You going to SummerSlam?
I don't know yet, but I sure as hell know that if that's when Punk cashes in the favor, it'll get me to go.
Well, you know what? I'm going. It's only in Jersey. You know, you and I could head there together as bros and pals and get our own content for our own particular purposes. Because, you know, all the indie bros and sisters are going to be out there that weekend trying to work.
It's gonna be a saturated weekend.
Sure is.
I know that.
Sure is. Well, Cheyenne, I definitely appreciate you hanging out with me today on the Tristen Law Show. Tell everybody where they can find you. Put your podcast over. Go ahead, take the floor. The floor is yours.
Hey, everybody, this is Cheyenne Ortiz, the voice out here in the Northeast Independence. You can catch me on The Following Conversation. Is scheduled for one fall. New episode drops every week on my YouTube channel. That's youtube.com/SheyenTheVoice. Catch me on Linktree, linktree.com/SheyenTheVoice. To catch me on all forms of social media, be it Instagram, Facebook, TikTok, Twitter, and more. And to stay up to date with all upcoming independent appearances, including my next independent show for Brie Combination Wrestling, Christmas with a Vengeance. You can catch all the updates for that and all my appearances on my Instagram.
And I'm Tristen Law. Thank you so much for joining me on the Tristen Law Show. WWE Survivor Series 2024 was a doozy, and I just want to thank you again for joining me. I want to thank Cheyenne for joining me. I want to thank you for joining us this Sunday morning. And you know what? If you're not watching this Sunday morning, thank you for whenever it is that you're watching it. I'm Tristen Law. This is the Tristen Law Show. Don't forget to like, share, and subscribe if you like what we did. Thank you so much for hanging out, and we'll see you next time.